Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today's story is about what happens when convenience turns into entitlement, a private apartment lot, a nearby high school, and parents who treat assigned parking like a free-for-all until someone finally says no. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. I have a legal right to park here. No, you don't. It has my apartment number painted under your tires. I live in an apartment complex right next to a high school. Like, right next to it, as in the edge of our parking lot practically kisses the school's fence. Because of that, parking's always been an issue during pickup and drop-off times, especially with parents who apparently believe traffic laws and property signs are more of a suggestion than a rule. Our complex is clearly marked as private property. There are a handful of guest spots near the front, and everything else is assigned. Each spot has the apartment number painted directly on it. Not a little sign, not a sticker, big, obvious white numbers on the asphalt. You'd have to actively ignore it to pretend you didn't see it. Needless to say, every school year we deal with the same nonsense. Students parking where they shouldn't. Parents pulling in just for a minute. People blocking residents in. People pretending they don't speak English. People pretending they didn't see the signs. All the classics. Most of the time, I work a pretty standard retail schedule, but one particular week I was covering shifts for a coworker who was out sick. It was one of those situations where management trusted me because I was the only non-manager who knew how to do her job properly. That meant earlier mornings and earlier afternoons. One day that week, I got off work about an hour before school let out. I come home, turned into the parking lot, and immediately saw a car sitting squarely in my assigned spot. 30 minutes before dismissal. Engine off, no one inside. Perfect. I parked behind her for a moment just to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. Yep, my apartment number was painted right under her tires. I waited a couple of minutes thinking maybe she'd pop back out. No such luck. Eventually, I saw a woman standing near the car, scrolling on her phone like she owned the place. I walked up and politely said, "Hey, that's my assigned spot. You're going to need to move." She didn't even look up. She just said, "No." Not sorry, not, "Oh, I didn't realize," just no. I tried again, explaining that this was private property and that all the spots were assigned. She looked at me like I just asked her for her kidney and said she was only going to be there a few minutes and that I could find somewhere else. At this point, a maintenance worker walked by. He was wearing a shirt with the property name printed on it in huge letters. He told her very clearly that she needed to move her car or risk a ticket for trespassing. She told him no, too. Finally, someone from the leasing office came outside after being alerted. They gave her the final option, move the car now or they'd call it in. Only then did she move. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. For the rest of that week, I noticed the same car pulling into my spot whenever she saw my car wasn't there yet. Every single time, as soon as she spotted me walking toward her car, she'd roll her eyes, sigh dramatically, and move. Clearly intentional, clearly petty. Then one afternoon, she rolled her window down as she passed me and said, "You know, you're harassing me by making me move. I have a legal right to park here. Next time, I'm calling the police." I didn't even respond. There was no point. Now, before anyone asks why we didn't just tow her, let me explain how that actually works here. Yes, towing is allowed, in theory, but by policy, everyone gets one warning. After that, people just switch cars. If the car's occupied, the tow company either won't tow or can't, and even when they agree to call the police to order someone out of the vehicle, by the time anyone shows up, the person's usually long gone. 9 times out of 10, there are 0 consequences. The complex has tried everything. They tried cones. People moved them. Some parents even claimed the cones were saving spots for them. They tried gates. People would wait until a resident came in or out and then tailgate their way inside. They tried having staff physically stop cars one year by starting earlier. They'd stop 4 cars while 10 more slipped in behind them. They tried blocking cars in. That backfired spectacularly. The blocked-in parents would lay on their horns nonstop. Unfortunately, several residents have kids with special needs, including some who are highly sensitive to loud noises. The honking caused meltdowns, panic, and a whole lot of unnecessary stress for families who already had enough on their plates. And then there was the wildest part. One day, while I was off work and cleaning out my car, a high school student approached me. She was actually very polite. She asked me if I could move my car because I was parked in her spot. I told her I lived there. She looked confused and explained that she had paid someone in the complex to rent the spot. Turns out another resident had been charging students $50 a month to use other people's assigned parking spaces, including mine. She was shocked when I told her she'd been scammed. She apologized profusely and said she'd ask for her money back. Later, the person who'd been renting my spot had the nerve to offer me $20 a month if I just moved my car every morning. I declined. I'm not waking up at 7:30 a.m., especially if I'm sick or off work so someone else can profit off my parking space. That situation got shut down real fast once management found out, but the damage had already been done. As for the woman with the threats, I haven't seen her since the end of last school year. She had a very distinctive bumper sticker, so she was hard to miss. This year, she's either gone or she finally learned to read the giant private property signs plastered everywhere. One can hope. The "I'll only be a few minutes" excuse needs to be retired forever. It's always a lie. And even when it isn't, it's still not their space. Everyone thinks their urgency overrides everyone else's rights. You weren't asking for special treatment. You were asking to use what you literally paid for. The fact that she kept targeting your spot specifically after that first confrontation makes it feel personal, like she was trying to punish you for not backing down. And our next story. So I work at the student bar at my university, and I'm quite proud of my job there and take it really seriously. I'm also a senior staff member, so I routinely bounce around from being doorman to bar. As long as you are baseline respectful, you'll have my full attention and service. I understand that people have bad days or are shy or uncomfortable and don't need me to sass them for being the way they are in the moment. I mean, they're in a bar. They probably want to drink and relax, and I've been there, so I get it. But then there are the douche nozzles who come tearing up into the place like they own it and treat people with disrespect and are so thoroughly annoying. My personal favorite thing to do to these gremlins is drag them back to the front door and double or even triple ID them after they storm past me. Like, listen here, bud, just because you turned 19 the other day, legal drinking age in my province, doesn't mean you get to ignore the dude sitting 6 feet into the bar. I'd sit closer to the door, but it's a fire hazard, so I can't. Like, they try and dart past me thinking that I won't go hunting them down. Seriously, it's literally my job. My personal favorite is one time these two people were, I think, going on a date. They came in and I smiled and asked for ID, so the girl began looking through her purse when her extravagantly blinged out boo gently laid a hand on her and said, "I got this." He proceeds to turn back to me and says, "Yo, I'm a regular. I don't need ID, and she's with me, so we're good." Now keep in mind that this guy is the whitest boy I've ever seen. He made snow look tanned and would probably sparkle if light was shined directly on him. So while I get his tough guy gangster showmanship was stereotypical and bland, I didn't jump on him just yet. I told him that I had to ID everyone regardless of their frequency at the bar. He doesn't like this, so he laughs at me and is like, "Nah, just relax, bro. We got this. You do you." I tell him that he isn't welcome in the bar until he provides me with a federally issued ID. Then the bozo decides to power play me. He locks eyes with me, squares up and says, "Mind your own business." So I stand up and thank the all-heavenly Jesus I was actually taller than this guy. I look down on him and, now being a little annoyed, simply say, "ID or leave." Trying to save face, this magpie of a person decides to laugh it off again with a, "Yo, I was just playing, dog. Relax, man. You gotta learn to chill and take a joke, man." And he starts fumbling for his wallet. I take the very quiet and appropriately now awkward girl's ID, and boom, she's golden. I have no problems with her. Buddy pulls out his ID, check it, scan the whole card with my eyes reading every detail I can find. I grill this card between glances of grilling him. That's not enough, however, because kinda F this guy, and I ask for a second piece. He looks surprised and grumbling, pulls out a second piece. I tell him that it's not so hard to just get your ID ready for the doorman which clearly pissed him off more. I grill the new card just like the last one and make the face of, I'm on the fence. He indignantly pouts, come on, man. And I reply, hey, man, you just turned 19. You can never be too careful. The edges are kind of rough on this card. The silent partner finally stirs with a confused look. She says, I thought you were 20. Yikes. So anyway, not to make a long story any longer, I let them in, and occasionally I'd look over to their table and see an awful scene unfurling. Her face was one of boredom and an eagerness to be done, and his was the face of a boy drowning in his own lies and personas. So moral of the story is have your ID ready, or you'll be embarrassed and ridiculed on the spot and might have your date ruined. It's both infuriating and a satisfying story. And our next story. Cop gets a taste of his own medicine. My wife inherited a house and a chunk of land and asked, pretty much begged, me to move there. It was a real family property, roots, this matters situation, and I could tell it wasn't just sentimentality. The problem was that the place was nowhere near anything related to my usual work in physical security and force-on-force planning. At the same time, she got an absolutely absurd job offer in wildlife management, a salary equal to what we'd both been making combined, a real contract, her own team, and benefits that sounded fictional by U.S. standards. We don't have kids, I'm adaptable, and it mattered to her, so I agreed. We sold our house and moved sight unseen. In hindsight, that was reckless. But sometimes you roll the dice. The culture shock hit hard. This was the land that time forgot. Horse and buggy country, not a joke. The house didn't even have plumbing. There was an outhouse and a hand pump well. My wife had family there and spent summers as a kid, so she fit in quickly. I'm 8 inches taller than most people around there, and pale enough to glow in moonlight, so I got the side eye and the "you're not from here" treatment. Eventually, people warmed up, but it took time. We bought a used trailer and parked it on the far end of the property while I dragged the main house into the modern era myself. It was slow, but we came in way under budget. I'm stubborn, and I learn fast. What became obvious pretty quickly was that while our immediate neighbors were good people, the surrounding counties were dealing with a spike in break-ins and theft. Industries tightening testing requirements and people who couldn't keep jobs drifted into quieter areas. Cars got broken into, sheds emptied, folks started locking doors they'd never locked before. It wasn't chaos, but it was enough that people felt uneasy. I saw a need and filled it. With leftover money, I bought cheap land way out in nowhere, too remote, too contaminated, useless for development, perfect for me. After permits, certifications, and nearly a year of building and earthwork while working part-time hospital security, I started a security and training company. Nothing theatrical, practical work, home defense planning, neighborhood watch organization, camera and lighting setups, de-escalation, medical basics, and firearms training and recertification for legal carriers. Without really trying, I found a niche. Local departments started sending officers to me for recertification instead of driving 6 hours north to a state facility. I was cheaper, local, and taught material that actually fit rural realities. For the first time, my work felt meaningful. That also meant I got to know a lot of local police. This area has a culture. People don't like bullies, and they don't tolerate officers who treat a badge like a crown. The departments that last understand that. That's where the problem started. I was working an armed night shift, filling in for an employee when a squad car rolled up. Once they realized it was me, they stopped to chat and told me about a new transfer they called Officer Brad. Not affectionately, more like you'd talk about a loose nail in a tire. He'd come from a bigger city and brought the attitude with him. He wrote citations no one else bothered with because they weren't about safety, just ego. He talked to civilians like they were annoyances and coworkers like subordinates. The issue wasn't that he was strict, it was that he was hostile. Locals were already reacting badly and the department was worried. 2 weeks later, I met him. I was driving to a consult in my plain work vehicle and waved at a passing squad car. It's rural culture. You wave. He slammed his brakes, whipped around, and pulled me over like I'd committed a felony. The stop was pure theater. Posture, tone, hand hovering, questions designed to intimidate. I disclosed that I was legally carrying, as required. instead of handling it professionally, he lectured me about why people like me shouldn't carry. Then he cited me for reckless operation. His justification, I'd taken one hand off the wheel to wave. I tried being polite. That just made him angrier. He moved into my personal space and gave me the "I can make your life difficult" speech. I handed him my lawyer's card and ended the interaction. He called me a coward and told me to leave. The ticket didn't bother me. What bothered me was how quickly he escalated and how comfortable he was doing it. If he treated me like that, how did he treat people who were nervous, inexperienced, or alone? Court came first, dash cam footage, ticket dismissed. Then I met with the sheriff. I showed him everything. He didn't defend Brad, he just looked tired. He explained the reality, layers of process, union protections, documentation requirements. Unless Brad handed them something undeniable, firing him would be difficult. A few days later, Officer Brad walked into my facility to schedule recertification. He didn't recognize me at first. He swaggered, complained, and acted like my staff were inconveniences. When I reminded him where we'd met, he reframed it as doing his job and admitted he'd escalated to assert authority. That told me everything. I let him practice on the range to see his baseline. He bragged nonstop. Then he shot. And it was bad. Sloppy, rushed, inconsistent, no control, no humility. When I offered guidance, he told me to shut up. Our recertification standards are higher than the state minimum by design. They test accuracy, movement, reloads, malfunctions, and composure. They aren't meant to fail people, but they will if someone isn't safe. Brad failed hard. The kind of fail that makes a range go quiet. When I told him, he exploded, yelling, threats, aggressive behavior. Everything was recorded. My staff followed protocol, backed off, and called law enforcement. Deputies removed him. That was the undeniable incident the sheriff needed. Between the failed certification, threats, and prior conduct, Brad lost his job and his ability to carry legally. He moved away soon after. Small places remember people like that. I'm not proud it took that much. I'm relieved it happened before someone got hurt. I went back to work the next day, same range, same goal, calm, competent professionals, the kind of officers people can actually walk up to and talk to. There's something almost poetic about the fact that the thing Brad used to intimidate people, the badge and the gun, is exactly what disqualified him in the end. Not politics, not favoritism, competence. Or lack of it. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.